Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all can see my screen. If not, just write it in the chat so that you can't see it. Okay, welcome, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to our Diversity Programs Information Session. My name is Tina J. Bosenpim. I'm the Senior Program Coordinator for the Office of Diversity, Education, and Research for SUNY Downstate. And I am joined today by Mr. Renako Goldstone, who is the Program Coordinator for the office.
Hello.
Thank you all for joining us.
If you have any questions after our webinar today, please email us at diversityprograms@downstate.edu. You can find additional information on our website as well. The webinar will be posted on the website next week for anyone who wishes to review the material again.
So at the end of the presentation, we're going to open the floor to everyone for questions. There is a Q&A button that should be in the bottom of your Zoom where you will type in all of your questions. We ask that you just wait to the end of the presentation to begin typing in your questions. A lot of the answers to some of your questions might already be said in the presentation, and we want to be able to answer questions that haven't been answered yet. So what will happen is that at the end, you'll get plenty of time to type in your questions. And if you see a question that you like, or that a question that you feel like you want answered as well, instead of typing in that question again, we just ask that you upvote the question and it'll be moved to the top of the question queue. And so questions that are at the top of the queue will be answered first. You can ask questions using your name. You can ask anonymously as well, whatever you feel comfortable with. And at the end of the presentation, you'll have plenty of time to ask any of your questions. So if you do have questions while you're listening to the program, just write them down and then at the end, put them in. Okay, so the purpose of this webinar is to give you all some information on our programs that we have here through our office during the summer. All of our programs are designed to enhance your academic profile so that you guys will be stronger candidates in your pursuit of a career in the health field. So during the session, you will learn about the eligibility requirements for the programs. You'll get application deadlines. You will learn a little bit about Downstate and the 5 colleges at Downstate. And you'll, of course, get the answers to many of your pressing questions.
So today we will be discussing details regarding 2 of our programs, which are funded by the HRSA Health Careers Opportunity Program, otherwise known as HCOP, and they include Exploring Health Careers and Early Medical Education. So at present, our office has formal agreements with specific colleges and universities. They include colleges within CUNY, so the City University of New York system, as well as colleges in SUNY, State University of New York system, and private institutions. So only students who attend these partnering schools are eligible to apply to the 2 programs that we are discussing today. first, we'll start off with a brief overview of SUNY Downstate Health Sciences University and why it's so special.
So SUNY Downstate consists of 5 colleges. We have the College of Medicine, we have the School of Graduate Studies, we have the College of Nursing, we have the School of Health Professions, and the School of Public Health. Each college offers numerous degrees of study, and Downstate also offers a joint MD, PhD degree, as well as a joint MD, MPH degree.
So why Downstate? Downstate provides high quality educational research and patient care programs. It's the only academic medical center in Brooklyn, and it serves a large and diverse population. More New York City physicians have trained at Downstate than at any other medical center. 99% of the medical graduates from the College of Medicine who applied for residency successfully matched. Downstate also offers dynamic, efficient, and relevant programs in its School of Public Health, School of Health Professions, and the College of Nursing. So the first program that I'd like to discuss is Exploring Health Careers. Exploring Health Careers is the first of our undergraduate pipeline programs and is designed to expose and prepare students for health profession study and careers. In order to apply to EHC, students have to satisfy the following criteria. Students must be undergraduates. Students must be US citizens or permanent residents, educationally or financially disadvantaged. You must be currently enrolled in one of our partner colleges as freshmen, sophomores, or juniors. You must have completed at least one semester that included science or math coursework. And you must have at least a 2.5 GPA in your concentration. So what is Exploring Health Careers, or EHC for short? It's a 4-week virtual summer program that's designed to expose students to a variety of career options in the health professions. EHC will include faculty presentations, information about a range of specialties within clinics and affiliate sites, as well as information about how to prepare for admissions application processes. Most importantly, it's an opportunity to be in a community of like-minded students who are all interested in health professions. You get a chance to identify and potentially work with mentors who are doing some of the same things that you may be interested in. So you have that hands-on and sort of experiential relationship. Program participants are expected to attend for the duration of those 4 weeks, and you attend all lectures, completed required readings and assignments. In the past, it's important to note that we also provided clinical shadowing, but due to the COVID-19 crisis, that is not something that is planned for this upcoming summer. But despite that, we do the best that we can to make sure that you gain a new community and that you have a better understanding of the career options that are in front of you. So it's a virtual program that exists in the summer for 4 weeks. So how do you apply? In order to apply, you must complete the online application in full. So you must complete it. It has several components, so it will require you to be dedicated and thorough. Complete application includes one letter of recommendation from a professor in a math or science course that you've taken. Additionally, it will include official undergraduate transcripts from all of the colleges or universities you've attended. Most institutions allow for passcode protected e-transcripts to be sent. So if not, sealed official transcripts sent from your school's registrar's office is also acceptable. But given that we are working virtually, electronic mail and e-transcripts are preferred. Keep in mind that if you are sending anything through postal mail, it is also a little bit slower. So you have to keep that in mind so that your application will be complete within the application window. The deadline for EHC applications is Monday, March 1st, 2021.
Okay, so now the next program we're going to discuss is the Early Medical Education Program, or EME for short. So those who are interested in EME must first of all be US citizens or permanent residents. You have to be either educationally or financially disadvantaged and attend one of our 4-year partnering institutions. So if you're from one of our partnering institutions that are 2 years, you would not be able to apply for EME. At this moment, you'd have to wait until you got into a 4-year institution, and it would have to be one of our 4-year partner institutions, as we showed you guys in the beginning of our presentation. EME is also for rising or current seniors. So that means that if you're set to graduate no later than spring of 2022, but no earlier than fall 2020, then you're eligible to apply. Students who apply to the program are required to have taken all the MCAT suggested courses. So that would mean two semesters of general bio, of chemistry, physics, organic chemistry, and of course in biochem, psychology, and sociology. The GPA requirements for the MA program is a science GPA of 3.2 and a non-science GPA of 3.5. So if you're interested in ME, that is the requirements for those who would like to apply. Now, what exactly is ME? ME is an initiative to help increase the competitiveness of pre-medical students by providing them preparation and academic support. So during your time in ME, you learn stress management skills, you learn how to study skills, and usually in the past we would have clinical shadowing, but obviously because of the COVID situation, that's something that is probably not going to happen for this new semester of ME as well, but we never know with how fast everything is moving. But for right now, that is off the table, but that is something that ME generally does provide. The program spans for about 2 summers. So it's kind of like if you're in ME, you'd be in the program for 2 years and you would be with us physically for 2 summers. And those summers can range from 6 to 8 weeks long. The courses are from Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The students who are accepted into ME do get a stipend for each summer that they are in ME. And those who successfully complete all the requirements for the ME program are accepted conditionally into the SUNY Downstate's College of Medicine. So that's one of the special things about ME. Once you're in the program, it's pretty much you're already in medical school. You just have to kind of meet all the requirements and you get your letter saying you're good to go, welcome to medical school, see you in the fall, or whatever the letter will say, depending on the student. So what are the requirements when you're in the program? When you're in the program, you have to graduate within 1 year of acceptance. So obviously, if you're graduating in fall 2020, you're eligible to apply to ME and you'd already have graduated, so you'd meet that requirement. If you are coming into ME and you have not yet graduated, you do have to have graduated by the following year. You have to maintain your 3.2 science GPA and your 3.5 non-science GPA. You can't receive any withdrawals, you can't receive any incompletes on your transcript unless you've had a conversation with your ME advisor, which would be me, and your ME liaisons. And for most of you, your ME liaisons are your pre-med advisors at your schools. But for some of you, it may be different. It may be like a C-step advisor or someone else, but for the majority of you, the ME liaisons are your pre-med advisors at each of your universities. Another requirement in ME is that you have to meet certain MCAT scores. And I know that's a question that we're gonna get is what is the MCAT score that you have to meet? There is no set score for you guys at this time. So how it goes is the scores pretty much change depending on the requirements for the College of Medicine, and each student is kind of graded based on their own performance and their full academic profile. So there is no set score that everyone has to make in order to get in. There are some minimums that they would like to see in order to even start the conversation. But while you're during your summer in ME, you'll have MCAT prep and things like that in order to help you with your MCAT scores. Which brings me to what the 2 summer sessions in ME include. So the first summer, as I was saying, is an intense MCAT bootcamp. The point of that session is to kind of just get you rolling in your MCAT studying. It's not going to teach you everything that you need to know in your MCAT, but what it's going to do is put you in that mindset to start really studying for your MCAT, and it's going to give you the tools that you need in order to study for your MCAT once the program is over. At some point during the year, you would be asked to take your MCAT. And if you got the scores and if you've completed all of the other requirements for the program, then and you got your conditional acceptance letter, you would be invited to do Operation Success, which is the second summer of ME. Operation Success is a pre-matriculation program that you go into the summer right before you enter medical school. What it does is kind of give you a hands-on view of what your first year of medical school will look like. So you take some anatomy, you'll take some POPs and PBLs, you'll meet other medical students, and you'll really get to figure out what the first year of medical school will be like for you, so that once you do actually start medical school, you kind of just hit the ground running. So that's kind of what those 2 summers are. Some students do stretch out to a 3rd summer, depending on when they take their MCAT, but that kind of information can be talked about at a later time if you actually enter into the program. The main importance is that ME does span for 2 summers, and you must attend those 2 summers in order to meet all your requirements for the ME program. Okay. So the application for ME is an online application, and it does include an essay. The application also asks that you send in 2 letters of recommendations. One of them has to be from a science or math professor. The other one can be from anyone you choose from either your professional or educational network, not like a family member. You should choose someone who you feel can give a good assessment of your abilities to succeed in the program and in medical school. So you should be very thoughtful about who you decide to use as your recommenders. So you do have to have 2 letters of recommendation, and you do have to have an assessment, which is a third complete separate thing from your letters of recommendations. You have to have an assessment from, it says here pre-med advisor, but from your ME liaison. So for most of you, it's your pre-med advisor, but for some of you, there are different people in your schools who you can get it from, and there will be a list of that provided in the application of who is your ME liaison for your school. Like if you're from SUNY Old Westbury, it's Eric Shorts, and he's not your pre-med advisor, but he would be your ME liaison. And if you're from Fordham, then there are 3 ME liaisons at Fordham, 2 of them being a pre-med advisor. And the other one, I believe, is the director of the CSTEP program. So, but for most schools like Brooklyn College, Hunter, Lehman, Stony Brook, they are your pre-med advisors who would be your ME liaisons. But you will see exactly who that is when you start your application, and you get up to the portion of the application that asks for that asks you to put in your ME liaison. What you would have to do at that point, though, is to make an appointment with your ME liaison in order for them to actually give you the assessment, because they need to be able to sit with you and speak with you to assess you. If you don't make that appointment, the assessment won't happen and your application won't be complete. You need a complete application in order to be considered for the program. So that's something important that you need to do, is make sure you speak with your ME liaison. And for anyone who is not at the stage right now where you are eligible to apply, to Emmy, if it's something that you would like to do in the future in your academic career, it's still a good idea to figure out who your Emmy liaison is and speak with them so you can see the steps that you need to take in order to become the best candidate you can be for the Emmy program. Your Emmy liaisons know our programs very, very well. They are our lifeline to you guys, and they're your lifeline to our office. So it's very important that you speak with them. They're our first lines of contact. And some of the advisors sit on the Emmy decision committee when we decide who we are going to accept into the program. So it's very important that you speak to your Emmy liaison and get to know them and let them get to know you so that they can assess and help you figure out your path in the program. So as I was saying before, for those students whose time it's not for you to be an Emmy, get a head start, speak with your liaisons and see what you can do to get where you need to get to be in the Emmy program if that's what you want. So for those of you who have completed the application, you will move on to the screening process. And after you've been screened, you may or may not be invited for an interview. There is an interview portion of Emmy. So the interview for Emmy does count as your medical school interview. So as you would usually go to any medical schools you choose that called you in and ask for an interview, the Emmy interview does count as your medical school interview. And if you are accepted into the program, you will not need to interview again for the College of Medicine to be accepted. That is already counted and you're good to go. So the deadline for the application for Emmy will be February 21st, 2021.
So when can you begin applying? Applications will be available on our website beginning in mid-November. So you have from now to sort of pull your preliminary documents together and have some of the conversations you want to have. But to get a jump start on things, our application should be available on our website in mid-November. And finally, our webinar will be posted on the website in the coming weeks. So in case you've missed anything in today's session and you'd like to go back and review some of the information, you can. And at this time, we'll begin taking questions. So you all, I noticed, have been using the Q&A function, so you can do that. And we will address your questions accordingly.
So we'll give you guys a couple of minutes, get all your questions in there, and in about 5 to 10 minutes, we will start going through the questions and answering them for you.
I have some great questions rolling in. Thank you all for participating. And thank you all also for upvoting some of the questions. We can use that to kind of prioritize which questions are most pressing. So again, maybe someone else has asked the same question that you had in mind. Go ahead and upvote those. And we will go ahead and answer the most pressing questions. Thank you.
And remember to use the Q&A portion of Zoom to ask the questions. If you are asking any questions in the chat, you probably won't see it. So if you did ask questions in the chat, on the bottom of your Zoom, there should be a button that says Q&A. That's where you can go ahead and pop your questions in, okay? And I see we have about 40 questions so far, so we are gonna get started answering some of these questions. I'll see what's at the top, okay. So the first question is, what happens if you don't reach the minimum MCAT score? Would you be allowed to take it again? Okay, so for that, I would say there are opportunities in ME to take the MCAT more than once, but that is based on a student-to-student basis. So depending on who you are as a student, and depending on how you did in the ME program, and a bunch of other factors, you may be allowed to take the MCAT more than once. Most students do get the opportunity to take it more than once, because most students that are chosen in the program they go through the program with as much vigor and emphasis as possible. So for the most part, I would say yes, there would be more opportunities to take the MCAT more than once. It's not an infinite number of times, but it's at least more than once. The next question.
Okay, I can read the next question if you like.
Go ahead, Renaka.
Do you have to meet the minimum GPA for the ME program? So I guess that's a general ME question.
Do you have to meet the minimum GPA for the ME program? So in order to be accepted into a program, there is a minimum GPA that you do have to meet. The thing about ME is that we are a holistic process. So if there is something that might be a little off with your application, we will look at that as a whole. We don't just look at the numbers. We look at you as an entire candidate. But what I will say is that a lot of the students who do apply for the program do have very strong GPAs. So understand that there are but so many slots in the program. So you do want to come with your best foot forward.
I believe you may have skipped one question. How will financial disadvantage be determined for 2021 year? Because 2022, due to COVID, a lot of people are unemployed and are using unemployment funds from the government. I guess I could field that question. My name is Anika Daniels-Osaze. I'm the director of the Office of Diversity, Education and Research, and I actually wrote the grant for the funding for these programs. And in terms of financially disadvantaged, that is determined by the federal government. So if the federal government chooses to change the criteria in terms of financially disadvantaged, then we have to follow their specific guidelines. And those guidelines are posted on the Health and Human Services website under Health Resources and Services Administration, also known as HRSA. So we receive updated guidelines every year from our funder, and we use those in order to determine who's financially disadvantaged.
Thank you, Dr. Daniels-Osaze.
Are the applications reviewed on rolling admissions? Well, we do review the applications as they come in, but all decisions are actually made as to whether you're in the program or not by, I want to say, March and April. So that's pretty much when you'll hear from us. For the ME program, interview process starts in March. So you would have to hear by then if you were in the ME process, if you were accepted for an interview or not. So I think for that answer, I would say it's not really rolling. Once everything comes in, we look at all the candidates and decide who's going to move on to the next step. Naka, you want to get the next one?
Yep. What is the tuition for SUNY Downstate's College of Medicine if accepted through the ME program?
Dr. Daniel Sosaze, do you know the answer to that one?
Yes, tuition is approximately 23,000 per semester, so probably a total of 46,000 per year. And that's the College of Medicine's tuition as of today. Each year, the SUNY trustees look at the tuition and determine if there should be a change, but at this time, that would be the current tuition.
Okay. The next one is, can you apply to Emmy if you have already taken the MCAT? So the Emmy program is designed for students who we feel would need the additional support in order to get into medical school, and part of that support being MCAT preparation. If you have taken the MCAT and you have gotten scores where you feel that you can go onto the general market and be able to get into SUNY Downstate, I would probably suggest that you go ahead and apply general admissions. But can you apply to every program if you've taken MCAT? Yes, we would take that into consideration and decide based on that and the rest of the students who are asking to be in the program, whether you would be the best fit for the program versus other students.
Okay, I'll take this question. How are letters of recommendations from academic advisors considered? Can they count as a letter replacing a science or math professor, or do they serve as a second letter? So for exploring health careers, they definitely serve as a second letter rather than a first. We require at least one semester of science or math. And so if you are going to apply to the program, it's important that you obtain a recommendation from a science or math professor at your institution.
And so for the Emmy program, academic advisors, you can get a letter from them as your second letter. As we said, that your one letter does have to be from a math or science professor for the Emmy program. And then if your second letter wants to be from an academic advisor who you feel knows you really well, we've had letters of recommendations from CSTEP advisors and from pre-med advisors and just any kind of advisor, mentors, anyone who you feel can really give you a strong letter of recommendation, that's fine. Let's see, for the application process, can you speak more about the pre-med advisement evaluation? Is that a form you provide or something that the college or university has? So the pre-med advisement evaluation is something that is provided to your Emmy liaisons. So all your Emmy liaisons will have access to it. Once you type their name into the recommendation portion of your application, they will get an email that will allow them to fill out the form on your behalf. They just cannot fill out that form unless you actually set up a meeting to meet with them. And they're not going to call you and set up that meeting for you. You do have to be the one to call them and say, hi, can I meet with you? I'm interested in applying to the Emmy program and I need an evaluation from you.
Okay, I'm just tracking this question. Tina, I think this is another question for you. How can you make up for a lower GPA when applying for the Emmy program?
Okay, so as we said before, the Emmy program is, we do look at candidates on a holistic basis. So we don't just look at GPA, we want to know your story. So we want you to be able to tell that to us. And I think that in the application, you will be able to see places in which you're able to tell your story. Low GPAs come for a variety of reasons, whether it be financial reasons or because you just weren't serious in school or you didn't know where you wanted to be at first. There's a lot of different reasons why you have a low GPA. We would want to know your story and where you came from and your background and how that kind of fits with the story that your concrete numbers are telling us. So those concrete numbers being your GPA, things like that. We want to kind of see the full picture, and that's how we assess you as a student. And then your letters of recommendation would also be very important for us to get to know who you are. So that's why it's very important to pick recommenders who will give you letters that really speak to you as a candidate. If you are in ME and you get accepted into medical school, is it binding or can you still apply to other schools? Yes, it is binding. If you get into ME, you are committing yourself to come to SUNY Downstate Medical Center, and you would not be allowed to apply to any other school. In fact, when you do your AMCAS application during the process, once you have put in the special coding for ME students, you would be blocked from applying to any other student, from any other school. So if you know for sure that Downstate is a place that you want to come, the ME program is a great program for you. But if you are on the edge and you would rather go to other schools, then the ME program is not the program for you.
Okay, I'll take this question. How does patient care experience tie in with any of the programs? I think that's the main question. And I guess it's in the context of the certain number of volunteer and patient care hours that are sort of looked at for medical school candidacy. So the question is, how does patient care experience tie in with any of our programs? I know that for EHC and ME both, we typically provide clinical shadowing experience, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, that has been challenged. And I think it's probably too soon to tell when we'll be able to reinstate that aspect of our programs.
Correct. So that, especially for the ME program, one of the things that we, that medical schools do want to see, as you have mentioned, is that you do have some number of hours volunteering and having patient care. As Mr. Renaco has already kind of said, that is up in the air whether we're going to be able to provide that this summer. But you never know. This COVID situation keeps changing, so you never really know. How do you measure academically or financially disadvantaged? I think we did answer that question. Financially disadvantaged is set by the federal government. Academically disadvantaged, that's something that we'd have to see in your application. Once you send it to us, we'd be able to see your whole situation and whether you count as academically or financially disadvantaged.
How many applications for ME do you receive in a single application cycle?
The applications for ME change periodically. The applications are from schools that we have affiliations with, and the number of schools that we have affiliations with change year to year. Sometimes we get more affiliations, sometimes we drop affiliations. So depending on how many schools, depending on how many students, I will say that last year we got about 160 applications, I believe, something around there, for ME applications. But I'm expecting a lot more for this year. But don't let that scare you, just apply. So I'm a bit confused about the application. I am currently a first semester sophomore and plan to graduate spring of 2023. When would I have to apply for the ME program? Okay, so if you were interested in ME, you would be applying either your junior year or your senior year.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to follow this question. Okay, so the next question. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Let me get this one because it's an ME question. So it says, can you repeat what you said about graduating within 1 year for the ME program? Should you apply if you graduate spring 2022? I'm going to couple that with the next question that's underneath because they're both kind of the same.
Got it.
Which
Sure.
says, yeah, I won't be able to apply because I will be graduating this coming summer 2020, or is there any exceptions? So you can apply to Emmy if you are set to graduate either this fall. So if you're currently a senior and you're graduating this fall, which would be early, right? It would be an early graduation for you. You can apply to Emmy. If you were a senior and you are planning on graduating in spring 2021, you can apply to Emmy. If you are a junior and you plan on graduating in spring 2022 or fall 2021, you can apply to Emmy. Okay, so if you have already graduated this spring 2020, you're no longer eligible to apply to Emmy. At that point, you will be considered a post-bac, and we do not have programs. The Emmy program does not cater to post-bac students. I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, you just ask it again.
Okay. Will there be a prompt for the personal statement?
Yes, for both EHC and Emmy, there is a question prompt.
Yep. Okay, I'll take the next question as well. If we don't manage to complete the program requirements, are we dismissed from the program, or is the program extended for another summer? If you're not able to complete it, then you sort of would lose your slot. And I'd imagine that would be the case for both EHC and Emmy. Tina, I don't know if that's different for you.
So for Emmy, when you say if you're not able to complete the program requirements, there's a lot of different program requirements for Emmy. During the summer, if you're not coming to courses or you're not doing the things that you should be doing during the summer, you would be dismissed from both programs. You can't just sign up for the program and just not come at all. And for EHC is that one summer. So as long as you are doing everything that Mr. Goldstone tells you to do for EHC, then you should be fine with that program. For Emmy, some of the requirements that you have to meet are not in the summer. So when you actually take your MCAT, does not necessarily have to be in the summer. Some students do, most don't. So although you're physically with us or virtually with us for summers, when you become an Emmy student, you're with us throughout the rest of your academic career. So during the fall, that's when we actually have more prep courses during the fall. Emmy students this year are currently enrolled in Kaplan courses during the fall. A lot of them plan on taking their MCAT in January. There are some who are planning on taking it in March. So it's not really a straightforward answer of if you don't meet your requirements during the summer, because the only thing that you have to do during the summer is show up for the programs and, you know, kind of participate and do what you're supposed to do. The other requirements for Emmy are kind of on a student by student basis. And if you're not meeting those, then yes, you would be removed from the program.
Same. And for exploring health careers, the same applies. It begins in mid-June and ends in mid-July. And so the most important thing is that you don't schedule, you know, competing courses or other obligations during the time that the program is taking place. And so that's our recommendation for that 4 weeks, that you don't really have any other academic or professional obligations that would be in conflict with the program. But I am proud to say that that has not been an issue thus far. Okay. This is a question about the number of people who applied to Emmy versus the number of people who are accepted.
So as I said before, there's a bunch of people who apply, at least in the hundreds, but there are 25 slots in the program.
so that the program is becoming increasingly competitive. So we ask you to put your best foot forward. Are MA applications accepted on a rolling basis? Is it better to apply earlier than the deadline?
When you apply does not matter.
Okay. The next question is, what's the time period for when interviews are conducted? Are there particular months in which this is done?
The majority of the interviews are usually done in March. It can span into April, depending on the number of interviews that are being given.
Okay.
So for the ME program, it says that we need to have some courses done to be eligible. So we need to have all the classes taken, or can some be missing? I won't be doing biochem until I'm in my senior year, and I'm in my junior year right now. So we prefer to take students who have completed all of their kind of the MCAT required courses, because it makes for the boot camp to be more effective for those students, being that the boot camps are not here to teach you this material. It's really here to help you get through the MCAT. We definitely have taken students who have not completed all of their courses. It can very much depend on what the rest of your courses look like. And you do also have to know that you will be kind of going up against students who have completed all of their courses. So it's if you're missing one or two courses, like a biochem, you might still be able to, get in the program, no problem. But if you're missing both orgo courses, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be chosen for the program than someone who has all those courses.
Okay. The tuition for the College of Medicine, I know that we answered that question a bit earlier. $26,000 per semester. I believe that was the number.
It's 23,000 per semester, 46,000 for the year.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. $23,000 per semester, 46,000 per year is the answer. Would the MCAT bootcamp be a replacement for other preparation courses, such as Kaplan or Princeton Review?
I wouldn't say it's a replacement. I would say it's in addition to other preparation courses. Currently, we do use a lot of the Kaplan materials for the bootcamp, and you do get a Kaplan account if you are in the program, and you do take a Kaplan course later on in your ME student cycle. So I wouldn't call it a replacement. I just call it in addition to some of those courses, you do get an extra MCAT preparation.
Okay. This one is from a student who's a current senior, taking a 5th year to finish prerequisites. Will she be able to apply if a part-time student during that gap year?
If you're currently still in school, you can apply to any one of our programs as long as you have not graduated by this summer that just passed. You can apply to either one of our programs.
Yep. Okay.
SUNY Downstate see the issue of students having limited healthcare experience opportunities because of COVID. Well, that's a question that you probably have to ask admissions themselves, and we can only speak about our programs personally. We do, as we said before, all of our processes are holistic. So we look at all kind of factors when it comes to choosing students to be in the program.
I can address
Sure.
that. As someone who's interviewing for the admissions committee, we expect you to try to find some creative ways of showing that you have some kind of understanding of patient interaction. So everything isn't in the hospital setting. There are other ways, you know, if you're a caregiver for a family member, if you're a caregiver for a neighbor, if you are volunteering in a youth organization of children who may have cancer, or you know, maybe you're volunteering in an area that deals specifically with health issues. There are other creative ways of trying to get involved. Now, I know a lot of places have limits on how many students they accept. I would even say try to find virtual experiences with your healthcare provider. Like, speak to your primary care physician and say that you're interested in medicine and you really want to have some exposure. Is there a way that maybe you could participate in virtual sessions that are being held through telemedicine? So there are ways of doing it. You're going to just have to work a little bit harder to get those experiences and to try, like I said, be creative and thinking out the box.
That kind of goes with this next question. Dr. Daniel, maybe you can touch on that too, or virtual shadowing is considered of equal merit as shadowing in person?
For now, yes. We all understand the difficulties of, you know, not wanting to expose people who are in high risk categories. So most hospitals have shut down their volunteer programs. We recognize that. But there, like I said, there are other ways of showing that you have some kind of patient interaction and supplement it with other activities such as research. You know, you could do research that is not necessarily in the laboratory, but you can do community-based participatory research where you're actually working with people in the community on a project, doing surveys or interacting through interviews. So that you're still having some interaction with people. It may not be in a clinical setting, but it's related to healthcare. So there are other things that you can do to try to emphasize that aspect of your application.
Thank you, Dr. Daniels-Asaze.
Sure.
I haven't taken sociology yet, but so will I need to take it next semester before summer begins?
You will need sociology to take the MCAT exam. So if you have no experience with sociology, you will have to take it prior to taking that exam.
Questions from Marco. Currently in the second half of my junior year, will I still be able to apply to the EHA program?
Yes.
Can the letter of rec from a science or math professor be from a professor you haven't necessarily taken a class with, but are doing research or TA for? When we ask for a letter from a science or math professor, we are looking for someone who's able to speak to your ability to grasp the information that they taught in their class. So I feel that we would prefer that it be from someone who actually has had experience teaching you, but someone you're doing research with. I mean, it could really depend on what kind of research you're doing. If it's not going to be able to speak to your ability to grasp information that was taught in that class, it might harm you more than help you. So I would say you should definitely get it from a professor who has had experience teaching you and seeing how you have been able to interact and grasp the materials in their class.
I see that there's someone in the participant section with their hand raised. We ask that you put your questions in the Q&A section. Please do not use the hand raise function. We ask that all questions are put in the Q&A section. Thank you.
Okay, next question is, will the interview be before or after the deadline? So I guess that's a question about when you begin with the interviews.
Interviews are after the deadline.
And can letters of recommendations come from physicians you have shadowed? Again, these are secondary kinds of recommendations. As Tina mentioned before, the primary form of recommendation is in an academic context. So we want to have a good understanding about what you've been able to grasp in the courses that you've been taking in math and science. But if you have any secondary recommendations, sure, it can come from a position you have shadowed.
I'm planning on taking the MCAT next year in May. Can I still be considered a good applicant for ME? We would have to see your entire application. We wouldn't be able to tell you just based off of that question. If you're planning on taking your MCAT in May, just give us all the information that you have and we'll be able to look at your application and see if you're someone who could or could not benefit from the program.
Okay. This question is, can you describe a typical day of a student who has gotten accepted into, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a couple you skipped.
Yeah, no, this Q&A, I'm sorry. Would I have to retake Organic Chemistry 1 if I did a credit, no credit, and obtained a credit grade for it?
We have had students who have done credit, no credit, and they have had to provide a letter from their professor saying what grade they would have gotten if it had not been a credit, no credit. So if you know what grade that is, and you know that grade would have been acceptable for entrance into medical school, because you need to get, you need to at least, for a medical school itself, you still need to meet those requirements, right? So you still need to have, I think, C and above in all of these courses, your orgo courses, your regular chem course, English, things like that. So if you have a credit, no credit, they're gonna ask what that grade would have been. And if you know that it would have met the requirements, then there's a letter that needs to be gotten from your professor stating that. But if you know that it would not have met the requirements, then it might be something that you might have to retake. But also coming into ME, seeing a credit, no credit, it kind of blocks us from being able to assess your abilities to take on some of the harder sciences that you would have to deal with, whether it be on the MCAT or in medical school.
Okay, so I think the next one is, would it hurt to see 2 to 3 grade pending or non-credit on a transcript? It will raise a red flag, and we want to know why you have a grade pending or why you have no credit. So I would address it in the essay section, or at least in the supplemental section, so that we already know what to expect when we review your application. If it's not addressed, then you leave it to the assumption of the people who are screening your application. So you want to give as much information as possible for us to assess whether you should be called in for an interview or not.
I go to Hunter College and they provide a committee letter. Will the committee letter replace the 2 letters of recommendation?
So with Hunter, Camille Jackson, who is your pre-med advisor, we have talked about the letter that comes from Hunter, and we suggest that you don't get a committee letter until you get into the program. So some of the letters that you do get can be also given to Camille. Sometimes that's the way she does it with Hunter students. She'll have your recommender send her the letter, and she'll put everything into the system. But the committee letter is something that would probably be best for the AMCAS application. Does age matter when applying? Not at all.
As an EOP Cornell student, could I apply to the program?
At this point, we don't have an affiliation agreement with Cornell University. We're currently working on that, but it has not been solidified. So students at Cornell are not eligible for this program at this point in time. But we do have summer research opportunities that you can apply for if you are still interested in participating in some aspect of our office programming.
How many days and hours does Emmy meet for in the summer for both sessions?
So for summer session 1, right now it has been increased to about 8 weeks, and we meet the schedule is for every day, Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, but there are a lot of times in there where it is kind of just your own personal studying. And for Operation Success, it is 6 weeks, and that is from—
It actually varies. It's between 5 to 6 weeks, depending on when school starts in the fall.
Right.
And that one, since we went digital this summer, we met pretty much from 9 to 3. But if we are in person, it would be 9 to 5, and that would include anatomy dissection in person. In the digital format, we have digital anatomy dissections, which means you'll be watching videos of the dissections and doing labeling through digital platforms.
So it's question said, I'm already a senior at Hunter College, but I haven't met the GPA requirements. Would I still be eligible if I stay an extra year to increase my GPA to the requirements? My second question had to do with the withdrawals. If I previously withdraw from a class, does that mean I'm not eligible? So for the second question, previously having withdrawn from a class does not make you ineligible to apply to ME. It's after you get into ME, you can't have any withdrawals without a conversation with me or your ME liaison before you do anything like that. Now, for your case, as a senior at Hunter, Camille Jackson is very, very heavily involved in the ME process. What I would say is go and speak to her and talk to her about your specific situation, because she'll be able to go through your transcript with you and see where you are. And she knows exactly the kind of students we look for in the program, and she'll be able to best guide you as to what you should be doing from this point forward. So I would definitely say take a meeting with Camille Jackson.
Okay.
I think
Next
one
question.
was skipped. I'm sorry, will you still be considered for ME if you did not complete all MCAT recommended courses when applying?
It is possible to still be considered. It would just depend on the courses that you haven't taken, when you're planning on taking them, and the rigor of the other courses that other students who you would be applying with have taken. But you can still apply to the program, yes.
Can you describe a typical day of a student who has been accepted to the Exploring Health Careers program? And so similar to what was previously said, we are meeting virtually now. So we typically meet from maybe like 9 to 3 or 9:30 to 3, Monday through Friday. Some of that time includes self-study. But in addition to that, lectures and workshops from a variety of healthcare practitioners, whether they're physicians or public health officials. There's a fair amount of individualized reading, engaging with podcasts and videos, collaborating with your cohort members on research related to healthcare disparities and social determinants of health. Those are some of the daily kinds of experiences. You also hear from current students at Downstate, especially those within the College of Medicine. So you get a sense of what their process was like for applying to school and considering health professions graduate level study.
So
how different would the normal admission process look for ME? I think that's probably what's meant. ME. And if you don't get into ME for any reason, such as graduating this upcoming summer 2020.
So if you're trying to compare normal admission to ME, it's very different. Going through the regular admissions process, you're competing with about 5,000 applicants that we get each year, between 5,000 to 5,500 applicants. You will go through a formal interview with a member of the admissions team. So they have a select group of faculty that are serve as interviewers for the school. The interview is somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour. And then that person has to do a write-up. They submit it to the admissions committee for review, and then they have to vote on your acceptance status. And that's pending whether you are even offered an interview. So it's a little bit more intensive because they're focusing on your immediate entry into the medical school. Emmy is focused on you getting into medical school with additional preparation within the year. So you will not interview with someone, you may interview with someone from admissions, but not necessarily from the admissions committee. And you will definitely be interviewed through someone that's on the Emmy committee, which is separate from the admissions committee. They have their own process of reviewing applicants and screening. So if you are given an interview, they will review your application, they will vote, and then all decisions are made and submitted that same day. So, you know, regular admissions is rolling. It's as the application becomes available and is completed, whereas ours, all of the decisions are made and submitted on the same day. I would suggest that you just try to have the strongest application up front. And if you think that you have already met many of the criteria for Emmy, that you already have your MCAT preparation skills at hand, then go ahead and apply for regular admission. Emmy is really a program to enhance those students who need more preparation for the MCAT and would like more exposure to the field.
Participating in exploring health careers give an advantage for those wanting to apply to Emmy program later on.
No, it doesn't give any specific advantage, but we do encourage all of our exploring health careers, cohort members to consider applying to other programs that we offer in the Office of Diversity Education and Research. So there are folks who go through EHC and decide that they'd like to go into Sprinter, which is our summer research program, or that they decide after being exposed to EHC that they are very much interested in becoming a physician and they'd like to pursue Emmy. So it is something that we encourage, but there's no specific advantage to participating in it.
And remember what I said earlier, all of our programs are designed to help you become stronger applicants in your pursuit of a health career. So EHC is going to help you become a stronger applicant. Our summer research program is going to help you become a stronger applicant, and Emmy is going to help you become a stronger applicant at different stages in your academic career. As you said, the interview counts as the medical school interview. So you will be asked similar questions such as why you want to be a doctor and etc. Will you be asked similar questions as you would for medical school? Yes, you would be asked similar questions. What those questions are, we're not telling you what those questions are. We want to know how you answer them when you actually get here. But if you want to know kind of how medical school interviews go, you can look on the AAMC website. They do give a very detailed, good kind of guideline to how medical school interviews go.
Okay. Some of these questions I think we've answered before, so I'm just going to go through them quickly. How many acceptances does the program offer? So for exploring health careers, we offer 30 students. We serve 30 students in the summer, and for Emmy, I think that first year is 25. Is that correct, Tina?
Yes, we have 25.
Okay.
What is the average and cumulative GPA of accepted applicants for Emmy? It varies by year, but a lot of I would say the average is usually 3.5 for science and maybe a 3.8 for cumulative for non-science GPA. But we do have students who are well below and well above those scores. It's really about the entire applicant and your entire story along with all the other pieces. So yes, GPA is an important part, but it's not the most important part. It's just part of your story. What is the MCAT score requirement for the conditional acceptance? As we said before, students who are accepted to the ME program are required to do their best in their MCAT. And the minimum score that we would look at to even start the conversation is dependent on the College of Medicine. So what we tell all of our students is do your best, because even at the minimum score, it doesn't mean that you're going to get in. It just means the conversation is going to start. But we just want you to do your best and we'll take it the rest from there.
How do you find out who your school's ME liaison is?
In your application, you will see in the recommendation area, they will tell you who your ME liaison is. But if you want to speak to them before you can start your application, you can send an email to diversity programs at downstate.edu and ask, I'm from this school, can you let me know who my ME liaison is? And we'll be happy to answer that for you.
Okay. Letter of recommendation question. So are the two letters of recommendation coming from one science professor and one math professor, or can it be two science professors instead?
It's one from either a math or science professor, and then the second one can be from whoever else you want. What attributes and experiences are considered competitive for either programs outside of GPA? So for ME, as we said before, what attributes and experiences, it's really your full story, where you are, what you've been doing in school, what you've been doing in pursuit of your career. It's different for everyone. So there's no blanket answer that I can give. It really is dependent on the student.
Can I jump in on that one? Because I hear hesitation about the GPA, and that's been coming up a couple of times. There is no replacement for the GPA. You can augment your application with other attributes such as your extracurricular activities, research opportunities that you've participated in, but that will not add points to your GPA. And keep in mind that we need for you to be academically rigorous so that when you enter medical school, you can handle the material. So if you're unable to master your prerequisites, you're going to have difficulty with your upper level sciences. So I just want to make sure that people are not trying to look at ways to circumvent GPA, because the GPA is very important. It tells us how you are able to manage the material in your classes and if you will be able to manage it when you come to medical school.
And for EHT, is there anything?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Tina.
So for EHT, is there anything else important that they should kind of use for their application? Any kind of experiences that you feel are important for EHT?
Really, I'm just trying to get an understanding of why they are interested in pursuing a health profession, or, just saying a little bit more about their curiosity. So as an applicant, that's something that is important, particularly within your personal statement. And also, of course, looking at your academic background overall. So seeing how you perform in your math and science courses, and looking at your recommendations.
Is ME a contract? Will you have to go to SUNY Downstate? Yes, ME is a contract. You do sign a contract. You do have to come to SUNY Downstate if you get into the program. I'm going to get through some of these a little bit more quicker. We answered the question on GPA already, so we're going to go again. Can one apply to either program if they've attended a university that is not listed? No, for the programs that we talked about today, you must be part of one of the universities that we did list. We do have another program that is running through our office, which is a summer research program that you would be able to apply to regardless of what school you came from.
Okay. What are the timelines or schedules like during the summer? I think we need to know a little bit more information because for EHC, as I mentioned, it's 4 weeks during the summer from mid-June to mid-July, Monday through Friday, approximately from 9:30 to 3 p.m.
What must the essay be about for the Emmy program? The essay questions are a set of mini essays. So there's a variety of them that you would have to choose from. So once you get into the application, you'd be able to see which questions that you have to answer and which questions that you want to choose to answer for your application.
If you are in school for a second degree, I take this to mean maybe a second undergraduate degree, can you still apply? And the answer is no. I think HRSA is really for first-time degree owners, undergraduate degree owners. But if you are, for example, in an associate's program, there are a number of students who, or applicants who come from Kingsborough and are transferring into the senior colleges, you may still apply to EHC. I'm sorry?
You want to take the next question too?
Okay, sure. Can we get access to the PowerPoint somehow? That would be really helpful. I know that we will host this webinar and we'll be able to post it shortly. So if you have other questions or information that you're hoping to get, you can we'll still have access to it.
We will be posting on our website the webinar. If you've taken the MCAT but if you haven't taken the MCAT but plan to, can my application be put on hold until I receive a score and then send it in later on? You don't need to take the MCAT to apply to Emmy, because when you're in Emmy, you get prepped for the MCAT. So taking the MCAT is not a requirement for the Emmy program.
If we can't apply this year, so for February 21, will we have the chance to apply in the future when we've met all the requirements? And I guess the answer is yes, depending on what year you are in school. So, you know, if you are graduating and, you know, or you've recently graduated, but haven't met the requirements, then no. But if you have another chance in the cycle to apply, then yes.
In my case, I'm an incoming transfer student at Lehman College. So by the time I submit my application for Emmy, I would not have a GPA status. Well, what you will have is your GPA from wherever school you're transferring from. So we would want that GPA and we'd want all that information. And by the time you apply to Emmy, you should have that. And then you would be able to also put in all the classes that you are currently taking that you don't have grades for. And if you are transferring, I'm going to assume that if you are transferring, you might be a sophomore. I might be wrong. But if you're transferring and you are currently a junior and you don't already have all those other courses kind of taken, there's probably a lot of other things that you need to do to prepare to be part of the Emmy program anyway. So if you're transferring and you come into Lehman as a sophomore, you wouldn't be eligible for Emmy right now either way. But if you're in as a junior and you've already taken courses at another school, no matter what school you came from, we want all the information from that school.
Okay. Some schools may be using the no credit or CR policy. Is that looked down upon? One does take advantage of the CR for the sake of GPA, should the students retake the class?
So I know some schools were kind of doing that for the COVID situation. They were NCing some, and obviously we're going to take that into account. And there is a portion in your application that allows you to explain anything in your application that's not like a full-out grade, whether there's a withdrawal or incomplete or NC. So all you have to do is explain that in your application, and that's something that we will take into account. And retaking classes for the sake of the GPA really just depends on who you are as a student. So that's something that I wouldn't be able to answer for you without seeing your entire application.
Okay. Is the EAT program a 4-week online course, and would you get paid the $1,500 stipend? Yes.
If I'm not,
Actually, it's based on the amount of weeks that you're in the program. I believe it's for 4 weeks, it was less than that. So we have to look at the hourly rate.
Okay.
well, I think we answered this question. You don't need to take the MCAT to apply to ME. You take the MCAT after you get into ME. For EAT, do you know what year expected there will be shadowing? If so, who do students usually shadow?
Okay, so in a typical year when we shadow within the hospital. We also will shadow across the street at Kings County, and then there are some local clinical sites that are nearby. But the specialties really range. So for some students, they're shadowing occupational and physical therapists. Other people are getting the opportunity to go to the dome and sort of view a surgery. Other people are getting the opportunity to be alongside a family health physician, and so working in those clinical sites. It really does range. We try to find as diverse a population of healthcare professionals as possible, and where shadowing is appropriate, we allow students to shadow them. If you get accepted into the program, completed the first year and accepted into the College of Medicine, how long before you actually have to go into the College of Medicine? And if you do have to go for that same year, are there scholarships available to help with tuition?
So anyone who is anyone who is applying for ME now will be getting into the College of Medicine for the year 2022 or the year 2023, depending on your progression in ME. You do have to go right into the program after you have completed all your acceptances in ME. Anything that has to do with scholarships or anything like that, if there's any information that we ever have about scholarships, we send out to students when we have them. There are some scholarships that are given in Downstate that are merit-based, but that only happens when you are actually in the College of Medicine, and that's dependent on the financial aid office. So if you're coming into ME for this incoming summer, you can go to the College of Medicine in 2022 or 2020.
This person wants to be a midwife and is asking if there is a program that will help in sort of the academic requirement. And so there are students who are interested in becoming nurse midwives, and they learn a little bit more about that during exploring health careers. So if that's something that is of interest to you, then I'd encourage you to apply. How do you calculate GPA with dropped or retaken courses?
We take the most current GPA. So if you've retaken the course, we'll take the course that you recently had taken. So if you have one course that's better than the other one, that's the one we'll take. Okay. The average GPA for accepted students, we did answer that as well. Can students who are going over the 4-year expectation to graduate are still eligible to apply for the ME program? Yes, if you are graduating with the regular 4 years in undergraduate, you are eligible to apply to the, depending on just where you are in your stream of.
If we don't get in on the first try, can we reapply the following cycle as long as we still meet the requirements? And yes, you're not forbidden from reapplying. Can being an EMT during the pandemic help with the ME application?
It doesn't hurt. Can you talk a
Okay.
little bit about the obligations or requirements for the Exploring Health Career Program?
Sure. So the obligations include attending all of the sessions over the course of the 4 weeks. The requirements are sort of being very intellectually curious and participatory. You know, you're in an environment where you're around a lot of different kinds of healthcare practitioners, and whether they're faculty or, you know, current students. So you get a chance to learn a really broad array of material. And so we just ask that all of our participants remain open-minded to that. You know, it's great to come into it sort of knowing what it is that you prefer to learn about. But I've also had the privilege of watching students change their minds because they get exposed to specialties that they were not previously familiar with. So those are some of the requirements. Again, the requirements can be found on our website and have been stated earlier on in this webinar.
I know you already answered this question, but I'm not completely grasping who's eligible to apply by the time the student is graduating from college. Okay, so for the ME program, if you are currently a junior or a senior, you are allowed to apply for the ME program. You have to be a junior or a senior. If you have already graduated this past spring, you are not eligible. As long as you're currently in school and currently a junior or a senior, you can apply.
Okay. If you've been accepted to the ME program and don't end up getting acceptance into Downstate, can you still apply to other medical schools?
If you are not going to be accepted into the College of Medicine because you don't make the requirements for ME, you will be given an official letter from the College of Medicine saying that your application has been denied, and then at that point you can apply wherever you want to apply. Even if it's Downstate again, you can apply to Downstate on the open market and take your chances there. Being an ME student doesn't mean that you'll now get in if you apply on the open market, but they do look at that and see where you are in your application compared to all the other thousands of students who are applying.
Okay. If you have I think that's a withdrawal, what's a good way to be accepted into the program despite that disadvantage?
As we said before, it really just depends. Anything in your application that you feel will give cause for concern, just write out the reason in the portion that asks you for the reason. And that's pretty much all you can do. The rest of it, at this point, if you're planning on applying to ME, at this point, all you can do is write out who you are as a candidate, show us your all, give us your everything, your grades. This is your background, this is your story, this is what you want to do, this is your passions. Give us you on a platter and we will make the decision from there. And that's pretty much what you can do right now. If you're planning on applying to ME in a different year and you want to know how to strengthen your application, go to your ME liaisons and have a conversation with them so they can look over your credentials personally, because the things that we're going to be able to tell you is very general across the board. Everyone is different. Go to your ME liaisons and ask them, you know, I want to get into ME for next year. What do I need to do? And they'll be able to help you through, especially since most of them are your pre-med advisors anyway. They know how to advise you through this. Because of school being online, is it okay if I don't have a letter of rec from a science or math professor? I don't believe that school being online should stop you from having a letter of rec from a science or math professor. If you are a freshman, it might be harder for you to get a letter for EHC, but if you are currently a junior or a senior and you're looking to get into ME, you should have had some courses with professors already, but we do want, whether you've taken courses online or not, we do want to have something from a science or math professor, but obviously, given the current climate, we do understand if there are some differences in certain areas of the application. What if you get accepted into the ME program and don't end up getting an acceptance into Downstate? I think we answered that one already. So can you talk a little bit about the obligations or requirements for exploring health careers program?
We did that one already.
Okay. Has completed the ME program and doesn't get, oh, we answered that too. I came to the nursing program. Is this only for pre-med students? No, this is not for pre-med students. This is for students who are either interested in going into medical school, and you do not need to be a pre-med student to get into medical school. So it's for students who are interested in getting to medical school, or students who are interested in learning about different health careers, such as nursing or, occupational therapy, different kind of doctor.
Public health, sure.
All kinds of things like that. So that's what this program is, just for anyone who's interested in the health field, and for those who definitely know that they want to go to medical school.
Sure. And so I see that there are a number of other questions like that. What I'll do is just kind of answer them as a group. So if you are interested in medicine, what makes this webinar important and what makes us proud to offer it as an office is that we offer ME for those students who are further enough in their academic careers that they know that they'd like to pursue medicine, and they'd like the opportunity to kind of do so through that program. And for those students who are either not sure or they are interested in exploring health careers more broadly, the Exploring Health Careers program is offered to you. So if you're interested in PA school, if you're interested in nursing, if you're interested in occupational therapy and a range of other health professions, EHC is what we would recommend to you.
So if you get into ME, if you get accepted via ME to medical school, will it be different coursework? No. Once you're in medical school, you're in medical school. You're doing the same coursework that everyone else is doing. Your ME is just pre-medical school, just to prepare you to be able to deal with the regular rigors of medical school. Which program do you recommend for someone who wants to apply for PA school? EHC would be great for you. They would have opportunities for you to learn about PA some more and see some of the other fields. If you're interested in research, we do have a research program. You can look on our website and you'd be able to find some information for that. PA schools also do like to see that students have done research. This person says, thank you so much for the information. I have to learn about the opportunities. Less of a question, more of a thank you. You're welcome. In order to apply, you have to be graduating within next year, right? No, not correct. You have to be graduating before your entrance into medical school. So if this is for ME, before you get into medical school, you need to have graduated. So for those applying to ME now, you begin to medical school by 2022. You need to have graduated by spring 2022.
Can you apply to other schools while being in the ME program? No. You are signing a contract with SUNY Downstate Medical Center stating that if you are successful in the EME program that you will attend SUNY Downstate. And when you submit your AMCAS application, you have to submit as an other special program applicant, so other schools will not be able to see your application. So you can only apply to SUNY Downstate if you're in this program.
Okay. Will we receive an email when the information is available, or should we just keep checking on the website?
You should just keep checking the website. We should have it up by the end of the week, or by next week. We should have we should have it up.
Okay. And as far as the application, again, that will be available on our website in mid-November.
I would like to know my ME liaison for Stony Brook. Where can I find that? Your ME liaison for Stony Brook is your pre-med advisor, James Montren. But if you're not going to remember that, just shoot us an email. diversity programs at downstate.edu. The same question that says, who's my Emmy liaison for Stony Brook? And we will answer you back and tell you that it is James Montran, your pre-med.
Sure, and there are a number of other students who mentioned that they'd like to know your Emmy liaison. So if you're curious about that, you're curious about Emmy, you can reach out to us at Diversity Programs, and we will get back to you on who your Emmy liaison is. Let's see. I think it's probably best to see if there are any unique questions. I know there are a couple of other questions about, eligibility and whether they can apply. I think those are kind of individual questions. So if you have some of those still that we haven't clarified yet, you can reach out. Let's see.
Turnaround time for applications is depending on how quickly you're able to complete all their application requirements and get all the information that you need done. Psychology major, I want to apply for Emmy. I'm currently with a liberal arts associate degree, transferred from BMCC to Lehman a while back. I graduate by the end of the next semester. I want to know what GPA I have to have in order to apply. And I also want to know how I would qualify for the program. So if anything, I would tell you to rewatch this webinar when we post it, because from the beginning of it until this point, we have been giving all those informations as to how you would qualify to apply for the program.
And then information is also available on our website, so you can find out some of those details there as well.
The person who's interested in being a nurse midwife, you can apply to the EHC program for more information about being in that specific program, but you cannot apply to the EME program. That is specifically for students who are interested in becoming physicians.
Do we want fall 2020 grades included in the application? By the time, well, I guess it depends on when the person applies. And so for those of you who are freshmen, I'd say that we probably want your fall 2020 grades. For Emmy, I believe if you're upperclassmen, you can apply now with the grades that you have.
You don't need your fall 2020 grades, but if you feel like you want to wait until those come in before you send in your entire application, you have the space to do so, being that the application isn't due until February. So just keep that in mind. But if you already feel like you have everything that you already need and you want to go ahead and put it in, we don't need your fall 2020 grades. Well, if you are taking classes, though, we do want you to list that you are taking those classes. You just don't have a grade for it yet. For EHC, do we get contact with the healthcare professionals that come to speak?
Yes, you do. Most likely they will give you their email contact, or they will tell you the person within their individual schools that would be the best contact for your particular interest.
Being denied from Emmy does not hurt your overall MCAS application. That was one of the questions. Being denied from Emmy does not hurt your overall. How many times should you take the MCAT? There is no set amount of times and that anyone should take the MCAT. I took and passed a sociology class. Will that session be credited towards sociology prerequisite class required for the Emmy program? We would have to see your actual application in order to answer that question. This may not relate to what you presented, but what are the requirements for PA school? I have seen your website and I would like to know if there are any changes that have been made. This forum is not necessary to talk about PA school. But if you are interested in EHC, they do talk about the requirements to get into these certain different schools if that's what you would like. Other than that, you can call the admissions office at Downstate or send them an email and ask about the PA school, and they'd be able to give you some more.
Will the Emmy program require you to be financially disadvantaged and or a minority? And so as was said before, educational and financial disadvantage is something that's assessed based on your application.
Financial disadvantage, as we said before, is determined by the federal government, and that information would be taken from taxes if you get to that point in your ME application. Do you offer an evening program? No. Is acceptance into the ME program binding? We answered that already. It is binding. We answered the question about how many get accepted. For science and math recommendation, do you want a hard science or would you accept a public health recommendation? Hard science. What if you do not have 2 of the MCAT courses that are required? As I said before, just put in your application and see where it goes. Anything specific to your application, reach out to your ME liaisons. They will help you out.
Okay. I'm not sure if you've discussed funding for this program, but is there tuition? And so the answer is no. These programs are free to you, and you receive stipends for participating, but you do not have to pay tuition to participate.
ME liaisons, are they part of the ME admissions process? They are. Your liaisons are part of our admissions process. The next one is about freshmen and if they can get recommendation letters from high school, math and science recommendations for high school. So that would be for EHC. Would they be able to get a high school letter?
College is best. So if you are a fall semester student applying, this upcoming spring, it's better to use a college professor. Additionally, you can apply again as a sophomore. Okay. Next question is, can there be a document comprising of the most common questions and answers? So an FAQ along with the recording of the seminar. Okay.
We can promise you is that there will be a recording of the seminar with the questions that you can go through just by watching the session. If we will have an FAQ along with it, that is something that we do have another session tomorrow. So, some of the pressing questions here might not be the same pressing questions there. We can't promise you anything about FAQ. If we do have FAQ, you would be able to find it on our website, but definitely for sure you will get the webinar in its entirety.
Okay. So for clarity, students can apply for ME within 1 to 4 semesters of graduation?
Correct.
And if a student has completed the ME program and doesn't gain acceptance into the College of Medicine, are they allowed to apply to other medical schools?
Yes, you can, but also keep in mind, if you didn't get into ME, it may also mean that you need to increase your academic status. So you might want to do that before applying to other schools.
Those are all the questions. You guys have some really great questions. Well, that is it for the information webinar. If you guys have any additional questions, please email us at diversityprograms@downstate.edu. If you guys got the flyer, you will be able to see that email on there, just in case you're not remembering it from me saying it to you. Any additional questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you, as long as you send it to our email. Thank you all for attending. I hope we were able to give you as much information as possible. And we're both looking forward to seeing your applications roll in. Continue to look on our website as well to see when applications will become available, but we are looking at mid-November for that. So thank you all. Thank you so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing your applications.